fundamentals of effective manuscript drafting. Look, I used very fewer keywords and I trying to manage my agenda today. When I say fundamental, I mean I'm going to give the basics of everything. You may be a researcher from a scientific background, or you may be a researcher from management background, or maybe some healthcare background, or maybe you're a technological researcher. But this is a common practice which I'm going to share with you all over here when I say the effective manuscript drafting. And then why I chosen the keyword manuscript, and what is drafting? Why not writing? Look, manuscript is certain draft. Unless and until it get published, it get copyrighted, it remains manuscript. So when you're writing it, it remains manuscript, and later on it becomes paper or something like that. And when you say drafting, why I chosen this keyword? Drafting means, look, when you're writing, it means alphabetical or alphanumeric writing. But when you're saying drafting, that means you're coming up with tables, the figures, the graphs, etc., and maybe it's expression or explanation. And I use the keyword effective. That means how impeccable it is. Is it giving some sort of luxury, some sort of facility to some part of the world which is waiting for a solution, right? So these are the keywords which I surrounded over here in my agenda, which is saying fundamentals of effective manuscript writing. And when I club them all, I mean, you are writing a manuscript which should be published by a qualitative publication house. You may be talking about Scopus, you may be talking about UGC Care, you may be talking about Web of Science or SCI. So if you really want to go and publish in these reputed publication houses, you need to follow these practices which we're going to discuss in this session. So let me proceed towards this session. Yeah. So quickly, we'll see that what we are going to visit today. I'm initially going to talk on what is research, because it is also needful to know that what exactly the research used to be, and then we have to converge towards it. Then author of the manuscript, what sort of mindset author should have when he's drafting the manuscript, especially when you're having honesty to draft a manuscript. Once you decided that, hey, I'm not going to copy paste the content of somebody, the manuscript is going to be drafted by me entirely. So what sort of mindset you should be having as an author? Then drafting fundamentals. That means when you are decided that, okay, I'm going to write a paper, then what are the minimum requisites? What are the minimum ingredients which you have with you? What are the very, very basic fundamental things which you should acquire if you want to write a good manuscript, an impeccable manuscript? Then what should be the basic structure of the research paper used to be, and how you have to draft it? Then what to put in a manuscript? What are the basic contents? If you decided that, okay, I'm going to draft a manuscript which will be having a length of around 6 to 8 pages, then what should be the content inside it? We need to decide that. And then how the publication goes, I'm going to throw some light onto it. But believe me, guys, in all these discussions which we're going to make, I'm very much interested to give the basic fundamentals of manuscript drafting. And I want that all of you should have bank of questions to ask after the session. So that maybe, look, it is possible that I'm going to talk on general sense. I'm going to talk on very, very basic templates. So maybe it's possible that every researcher have their own specific problems, right? Their own specific doubts. So you can ask me after the session. So once you understand this, then you can ask me after the session. So let's start with something, and then the question comes over here: what is research? So let's see the answer for this. That what used to be research. It's a detailed and systematic study or work associated to some domain or topic to find out more information about it. So when I say more information about a topic or a domain, and working hard onto it, maybe trying to get into its details, maybe trying to follow a systematic procedure or systematic methodology, and trying to invent something, trying to innovate something, trying to create something, trying to make something more better than the existing work, then I'm doing research. So this is the fulfilled solution, and I think every participant will be agree upon this particular definition of research. So it's so very needful to know that what basically research used to be, and then only you'll start drafting it, right, putting it in the form of manuscript. Now when you're an author of a manuscript, right, so what you must be having with you? What sort of fundamental things which you should be carrying, as an author of a research paper. The first and foremost requirement which is there from your side, you should be innovative in solution making. The solutions should be creative. Your solution should be out of the box, so that they will provide the sort of respite the world is looking for. You're not copy pasting certain things, right? You're coming up with the solutions which are not existing. So that is innovation you're bringing into the world. The second thing is that you should possess the skills. Now, when I say skills of a research paper, yeah, if you're author of a research paper, what should the attributes you should carry? The first and foremost thing which you have innovation. You should have creativity. That is important. And if you have that out of box thinking, if you have that idea to crack the problem, your paper will be highly appreciated. The second thing which you should carry is skillfulness. So when I say skillfulness, that means you have power, you have metal enough, your solution is strengthy enough, which is scientifically provable, which is technically justifiable. So you should be having that skills. And then it should be expressive. That means you have, you have used some media, you have used some way, maybe like tables, maybe graphs, maybe pie chart. And by virtue of that, you are representing your results, that how brighter those results are, how they are providing solution to the world. So that expressiveness should be there as an author in you. And the important thing is that conclusiveness. You should be giving some interpretation out of your research work by writing a paper. You should tell the world that where exactly this research is heading towards. What are the probable implications? What are the probable gains to the world once this research is established? So you should be having that conclusiveness in you. So these are minimum attributes which an author should carry when he's drafting a research paper. Now look at this, what the great man is saying about research. So we are discussing a lot of things about research and the author of the research. This great man, Albert Einstein, says imagination is the highest form of research. So once you start imagining that, yes, this problem is crackable, this problem has inbuilt solution into it, or it has certain solution which can be discovered, then you're doing research. So these are the quotes of great scientist, which is Albert Einstein. Let me proceed towards the fundamental of manuscript drafting, which happens to be the core subject of today's discussion. It has first and foremost thing to deal with is you should be knowing your area of research. Guys, this is so very important slide, and I want everybody to focus on these points. If you really want to write a nice manuscript, which should be recognized by any of the publication houses which are having great positions in the world, the first and foremost thing which you need to recognize is that what is your area of work? Are you working in cybersecurity? Are you working in healthcare systems? Are you working in cloud computing? Are you working in artificial intelligence, right? So these are all the things which you need to answer. You need to identify your area of research. The second, you need to have a survey of qualitative literature. I want to spend a minute on the second point. What I mean of visiting the qualitative research or qualitative literature, I mean you should be navigating through, I mean you should be exploring through great work which is published by great publication houses. Please include the work which is parallel to your system, have it, stick it to the references, and subsequently cite it in your literature review. And once you're going through that rich literature, it will help you in a great deal, to identify a research gap, which is the next point. But one precaution we all need to take in this journey, that we need to survey not only old papers, but very recent papers. I insist to visit you very recent papers. Say like if I'm preparing as an individual to write a paper for a Scopus journal, right? So I'll be navigating all the research papers which are published beyond 2018-19 and taking them in the consideration. And by virtue of that, I'm trying to identify the research gap. So research gap, fundamentally, what actually this used to be. I'm going to spend time on this when I'll be discussing literature review. But then let me throw some light onto it. Look, research gap will be dictated by the limitations of existing systems. If there are certain existing systems which are already there in the world and they are getting executed or they are getting utilized in the world across, but they possess some challenges, they possess some limitations. So those challenges to those systems, those limitations to those systems leads towards identifying the research gap. And they will motivate you to improve the performance of the existing system by coming up with new ideas, new solutions. So this is how a researcher can identify a research gap. Then problem definition. So you need to quote the problem definition, which should be non-ambiguous in nature. It should not be confusing. It should be very clear cut, especially when you're talking about research. Then what are the probable solution? Is there any methodology existing which you can improve upon, or you have your own methods to go about? So you need to define all the terms. Statistical analysis, if you already have obtained some results. So how the stats are talking about? Are your results handsome enough instead the existing systems results? So you need to tell about that. And finally, you should be having some observations or interpretations or facts, something like that. So these are all the things which you should carry with you before going for manuscript drafting. And I hope I justified every keyword which I written in those particular points. Even if you're having any doubt, you can quote it down and you can ask me after the session. So now, once we have the very minimal ingredients which are required to research paper, let's write a paper. So how to write a paper, right? So there are two ways to quote a paper. If you are a young researcher, you can write a review paper. But if you have already done experimental setup, you obtain some of the results, you have observations and facts with you, then you can go for research papers. So basically, in review paper, look, the research findings or the results are optional. Okay, you can quote them or you can skip them as well. But then if you're writing review paper, what should be quoted inside it? Look, if you're writing review paper, you should be quoting the literature's journey of existing work. And you will be giving a comparative analysis of various existing works, that how they're performing. And finally, from their limitations, primarily from their challenges, you can come up with the research gap. And maybe you can also quote a probable solution which will work upon that research gap. So these are the stories which you can quote in review paper. And then finally in research paper, what to quote, I'm going to detail in the coming slides. Typically, how a research paper structure should look like. So I have quoted a sort of a tree diagram over here, or whatever skeleton you can say over here. So if you can see that how a research paper should look alike, you should be coming up with title and abstract and keywords over here. After that, you should be writing the introduction, then the methods which you have employed to provide solution. Finally, what the results you have got, the discussion in the result analysis, and finally you can quote conclusion and then references which have helped you to go about that particular research. So these are all the encounterings which you have to conduct while drafting a manuscript. Now, what are the contents, what to be included into the manuscript? Look, I try to discuss every part of this because they each require 1 hour to 2 hours time to describe. Believe me, if you're talking about how to identify title, it takes 1 hour to discuss. How to draft a good abstract, it takes half hour to discuss. Similarly, with the case with the other keywords which I drafted in this list. But then I try to wind up in say maybe 15 or 20 minutes time, because I have to discuss about plagiarism, which is one of the important issue to highlight about. So let me go about all the contents which should be kept in a manuscript. The first and foremost thing which should be your title. So title is so very important, right? Specifically when you're writing book chapters, when you only have to submit your title and abstract, which should be published by Scopus or SCI. So they will be accepting your abstract or your manuscript on the basis of the title and abstract only. So title is so very crucial, and what sort of attributes this carries, I'm going to tell you. And then we having abstract. So abstract is another important thing. Guys, look, there is a difference between abstract and conclusion. So I'm going to tell you what is the narrow difference they carries. Then we have to talk about introductions, where you have to introduce your title, where you have to introduce your research. The literature review or literature survey, that will tell about the previous systems which are existing and how they are, how close those are to your existing research. Then proposed system, what is your idea? So this fundamentally is going to talk about your own solution, your own methodology. Then we have to discuss about result analysis, which will be comparing your results with the other results. And finally, we have to put a conclusive statement, and then we have to talk about something of plagiarism report. So these are all the ingredients which a manuscript should have. So let me start with the first and foremost thing, and very, very important thing. Believe me, guys, I think I have in front of me 76 researchers. Please listen this slide very carefully. This is title for you. Now, your title, whatever you're quoting, should be scientifically and technically justifiable. So when you're fixing the keywords in the title, please have a discussion with your supervisor. Have a discussion with the experts in the domain, in that field, so that whatever the keywords you're quoting inside your title should be scientifically justifiable. You need to justify each and every keyword. If you are saying that my system is highly efficient, then you have to justify how efficient it is. What was the efficiency earlier? And how much better performing it is. So all these things should be justifiable. So you need to choose your title very, very perfectly, right? Second thing, which I kept in bold, is impactful. What is the zone of this world which is getting facilitated with this particular research? How important this research is going to be to a specific zone of the world? So that will decide by the impact of your title. Then third, it may lead to a specific observation and interpretation. Yes, your title should also give a direction that where actually this research is heading towards. Are you saving the life of the masses by making a vaccine? Are you developing a vaccine for children? So this is what the interpretation is all about. And this is what the impact is all about. That look how many lives I am impacting with this research. So your title should be inclusive of these three minimum properties. It should be scientifically justifiable, it should be impactful, and it should lead to some observations and some interpretations, right? So this is how you can freeze your titles. How to write an abstract and what it should carry. Look, when you're writing abstract, it should be having summarized view of your research title or research topic. It may discuss problem in one or two line, very abstract view. And if you have a method, you can mention its name and what it can do, you can mention in a sentence. And then finally, abstract should be terminated by keywords. Now, let us understand keywords. There is a lot of ambiguity in young researchers about keywords and what those used to be. Are these the trailing point of the abstract? No. The keywords are reserve words. Keywords are the words which are very, very, utilized technically or scientifically in the abstract. Now, you might be claiming, say like for example, I'm writing a paper on artificial intelligence and I'm predicting the raining systems, right, in India, suppose. So if I'm using machine learning algorithm into it, so my keyword is machine learning. So when I'm saying machine learning means I'm training my machine, and by virtue of that, it start giving output, right? So when I'm saying machine learning, I don't mean though that washing machine learning, I mean computer machine learning. So this becomes my keyword because this is only known to me as a researcher. So this is how the keyword should be quoted. If you have further questions onto it, we will discuss about it. But this is what the justification I can give it to you right now about keywords. And I hope I clarified about the idea of abstract. Then we'll discuss about introduction, that how to quote introduction in your manuscript or in your paper. You should be quoting a motivation or need about writing this research article. Very, very important, guys. If you're say working on cybersecurity, you should be telling that why cybersecurity is so very demanded, why it is the need of the hour, why there is a demand to write research papers onto it. Who needs it? Is there some corner of the world who badly needs cybersecurity solutions? That's why I'm writing papers. So you need to narrate that study of motivation, or you need to tell its need in the world. The second thing which you need to be mentioned is that aim of the research, what you're trying to prove, what sort of solution you're trying to make. You need to write that essay about. And then objectives, what at the end of the day you're trying to achieve, what should be the journey of it. You should be telling in objectives. And then you're going to write scope. Scope means which are the zones of the world, which are the verticals of the world where this particular research is going to extend its wings. We'll talk about that in the introduction. So these are all the parts which you'll talk about in introduction. I suggest you people to go about introduction when you're drafting a manuscript for one and a half page, not more than that. Yeah, now this is a big fish, which is literature survey or literature review, you can call it. There's a narrow difference into them, but if you have time at the end, I will tell you about the difference. So when you're saying about literature survey, what you're quoting inside it, you're talking about existing systems, comparison between various existing systems. So you're going to quote a story of various parallel existing systems which are very close to your own research work, which are impacting your research, and you also should give the comparison between them. So like search engines, if you're talking about, maybe you can talk about DuckDuckGo, you can talk about Google, you can talk about MSN, you can talk about IBIBO, you can talk about their features and how they are facilitating and what is their limitation, how to go about it. So all these things you can quote in the existing systems, limitations of it. What are the challenges to them? How restrictive those are? And what actually limits to give the performance to those systems? You can quote that story, right? And then finally, you can talk about the research gap, that you can identify that, hey, there is a scope to improve the efficiency. Hey, there is a scope to improve the speed of the system. This is a so very important asset which you have to cover in the literature review, and then this should be quoted by an author by yourself. There's no reference, which is going to help you. So this story is going to be quoted right from an author. So this is where the metal as a researcher will be tested when you're identifying the research gap. And finally, you can put a summary and discussion where you can write a chronological essay that what actually the work has been done so far, and where the world is getting stuck, what is the problem, what is the challenge, and what is the solution ahead. So this is the long story which you can write in literature review or literature survey. Again, I suggest you people to go at the length of 1.5 page to when you're writing literature survey. Now, this is proposed system. I written it in big, bold letters because here the metal of the researcher get tested, because this section will be written by you people only. This section doesn't, give sort of any assistance from existing literature. Here, you are your own hero of writing the manuscript, And what you're going to quote into it, the first and foremost thing which you're going to talk about in proposed system is problem definition. What is the problem? What the title you're working upon? What sort of solution the world is looking towards? So you need to quote a clear-cut problem, non-ambiguous problem, mind you guys. So I remember I have pronounced this word non-ambiguous 3 to 4 times. So if you want to make the further justification onto it, we will discuss after the session. So once you narrated the problem definition in the proposed system, you should be talking about the basic idea, how you're going to crack the ice. You had to tell. What are the steps to provide the solution to this problem which you justly narrated, right? And then in the third step, you have to write about proposed idea using a mathematical model or design, a block diagram, algorithm. So you have to express that how the solution can be derived. Is there any mathematical formula? Is there any algorithm who's going to provide the solution? Is there any design who's going to provide the solution? So you need to express, you need to give the justification to your solution that, hey, look, this is the Pythagoras theorem, which is available to us to provide a solution to this problem. So this is how we have to proceed forward, right? Writing proposed system. And finally, we have to come and close this section by mentioning the probable implications. That if the solution hits, if the solution stands, if the solution gets the leverage, then what sort of betterments which you can observe in the system, in the existing systems. So that is a story which you have to talk about in probable implications. Afterwards, the important section which can accept your paper in the Scopus or CI is result analysis. So what this result analysis should carry into it? Look, the first and foremost thing which is there in result analysis is use of standard tools and methods. Look, whenever you're testing your results, please go for standardized tools and standardized methods. They are highly recommended and recognized by all the publication houses. You cannot afford to come up with your own customized method to test your results. That is not going to be entertained. So please use some, recognized tools and recognized methods. They will give the richness to your result analysis. Then second is a comparison with existing systems. Now here you have to be specific about your own work and the existing works, and have to make the comparison between them, and have to prove that which one is better, right? Then identification of parameters or coefficient. Now here you have to identify certain parameters like efficiency, throughput, right? Maybe speed, something like that. And on the basis of that, you have to prove that whether your system is performing well or not in compared to the existing systems. You can use tables, you can use graphs and pie chart, you can make the discussion of the result. This is important, discussing the results, that how brighter your results seems to be. So these are all the points which your result analysis section should have. Believe me, guys, everyone listening to me, this section of yours should be powerful enough if you really want to get a select in Scopus or SCI, or in a good publication house, maybe from UGC. Now, in conclusion, this provides a detailed details of proposed system accomplishments. It may have future scope as well. Look, when you talk about abstract, guys, it shows you the direction towards solution. But when you talk about conclusion of a research paper, then it talk about the accomplishments, the compactness of the methods which you employed in your research. So this is what the conclusion is all about. And then you need to check this thing, which is plagiarism. You cannot afford to cut paste the things. You cannot afford to steal the intellectual property of somebody and show as your own, because nowadays any of the reputed publication house, they used to check the plagiarism, right, by using some electronic tool like Turnitin or Kund or iPlag or iAuthenticator or something like that. So you need to get out of this. And I suggest to people to keep your plagiarism content less than 10%, less than 15%, if you really want to publish it in a good journal. This is the publication process. If you really want that your paper should be published in a highly reputed journal, so this is the journey which you have to traverse through. Look, you need to submit the title or this article to the editor of the journal. And once that particular article is submitted to the editor, and editor thinks so, now this is a scrap, this is of no mean, it can reject directly. But if he thinks so that this is okay, there's no plagiarism involved, so he can send it to reviewers. So reviewers can go and maybe they can suggest you the further reviews, and then they will ask you the revision, and then you again have to resubmit the manuscript. But if reviewers think so, though the manuscript is okay, they can resend to the editor. Editor can send you acceptance, or reviewers also can send you rejection. This is also possible. So once your paper is through, it is accepted by the editor. And once editor sends you acceptance, it will go to production house where they can ask you CRC. And finally, this goes to the publication. So this demands 2-3 months time to be get published in a reputed journal, and finally then the indexing will be done. So it's a typical process of publication. So thank you very much. I suppose I touched literally every point in the manuscript drafting. And these are all the basic discussions which I involved in. If you want any further detailed discussion on any specific thing, the forum is open for the discussion. Yeah, this is what I suggest to my young researchers, and in the university as well. I used to tell them, ask, understand, smile, and write papers with ethics. So this is what the basic thing which I used to tell them. Look, having problem is okay, but having confusion is dangerous. if you have problem of writing introduction, we can help you. But if you have confusion that whether I write or introduction or not, then it is dangerous. So this is what I have for you today. Thank you so much for the patience listening. I hope I wind up the discussion in given time. Now, if you have any problems or discussions, the forum is open for all of you. Thank you so much. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Madam, is there any question?
Yes, sir. I have opened a chat box actually to our participants, and they can, if they are having any question, they can directly text in the chat box. And I'm checking also if there is any question. Okay, we have received one question from Chinna Promise sir, and I would like to share with sir directly in the chat box. Yeah, sir, I have shared.
Yeah, Mr. Chinna is asking me that what is the difference between abstract and summary in research? Look, I think Mr. Chinna is asking about summary in research means summary report of research. Is it like that?
I would like to unmute Chinna Promise sir here also,
please,
so that he can directly ask the question.
Yeah.
Chinna sir, I have unmuted you. If please unmute from your side. Sir is muted again. I have unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now you can raise your. Yes, sir. Hello? You are audible.
Okay. I want to know the in paper in research. I want to know the abstracts, the difference between abstracts and the summary at the end of the paper. What are the content? Having seen the content of an abstract, what are the
I heard what are the contents in abstract, and
contents
then
of the summary of a paper. Hello?
Yeah, I heard your question up to what are the contents in abstract. I'm going to answer that. Next, after that, after that, what are you asking?
The content of the summary of a research work. After you are done with the research, what are the content that should be stated there in the summary?
Okay, fine. Look, abstract, when you say, fundamentally, abstract is talking about some preamble of your research title, right? So if you're quoting a research title,
yes,
you're giving some preamble of it, maybe narrating what is the problem with the world. And then if you have obtained some of the method, or if you identified some of the way to provide the solution, you can quote it. So you can write a 6 to 8 line abstract, which tells about what is the need, what is the problem, and where the solution will be, and if the solution will be obtained, where the world is going to be, what is the direction of the research, right? So if you're narrating this much story, this is abstract, which will be narrated maybe in 8 to 10 lines, not more than that, and that should be followed by keywords. But when you're talking about research summary, in research summary, you are free to quote the research establishments. Maybe like if you've gone back into the research laboratory and you obtained some results. So you can talk what are the methods you followed, what are the scientific approaches you followed, what are results you obtained in a summarized way, in a short cameo, right? And if you're giving the short cameo, which is interpretable, which is observable, then it becomes the summary of that research. I hope I addressed the question of yours.
Yes, goodness.
One more question we have received, sir.
Yeah.
I have shared with you, sir, the question.
Who's the body? Yeah. Is it necessary? Yeah, I think Lokendra Gaur.
Yeah.
He's asking, is it necessary to check plagiarism with standard tools? Yes, Lokendra, it is necessary. Because look, when you drafting your original research paper, if you followed all the ethics,
can we have a particular?
So I think Lokendra, when you're writing a research paper, and then you have to check the plagiarism, the flag content of it, and if you're putting it on maybe freeware or on a online platform, so you don't know, Lokendra, where your contents are going, right? This is first thing. And the second thing is that you don't trust onto the authenticity of that particular software which is checking it online. And believe me, it's not going to permit you more than 1,000 words or 1 page, right? So these are all the risks which are involved. These are all the challenges which are involved. Thing number one, it will have the restricted usage, like 1,000 words or 1 page at the most. Thing number two, you're giving your original content to somebody to whom you doesn't know. So what is going to be done with your content you doesn't know. So this is why I recommend you people to please go for authentic tools for flag check. And if you go for authentic tools, your solution will be compact, and you can trust its worthiness, you can trust its confidentiality, and you can also trust the purity of the report. So these are all the advantages which you should have when you're going for authentic tools or standardized tools or flag check. I hope I answered your question, Mr. Gaur. Yeah, Mr. Pankaj is asking, Rekha Pankaj is asking something. She's saying, what is the difference between literature review and a systematic literature review? Okay, I think I already talked about literature review a lot. So let me give Rekha a short cameo about systematic literature review. Look, Rekha, when you're saying about systematic literature review, it should be having chronological behavior. Say, for example, I'm quoting a research manuscript in 2021 in December, right? So I'll be taking the maybe the citation from 2019, 2020, 2021. So the first thing first I'm quoting, as if like say like first COVID-19 happened, then there's a mutation, then there's a treatment, then there's a vaccination, and now there's a vaccination for children. I hope you understood this chronology, right? So in this way, you have to come and systematically arrange your things so that the first things first and the recent things and the last. If you're following this procedure, then it's a systematic literature review. I hope I addressed your question. Now, China is asking another question. He's saying, can we have a particular time frame to limit our review of literature? For that one, you have to discuss with your supervisor that is it sufficient, or whatever the research gap we have identified for our research is particular, it is gettable, is it feasible, is it going to give the proper solution which you're looking towards. It requires lots of brainstorming sessions with your supervisor and experts. But probably I think so 6 to 8 months time is a good time to have a good literature review. After that, yeah, he's saying I enjoyed the session. It's amazing. Thank you. Then Muhammad Tariq is asking, what is the difference between literature review paper and a research paper? Yeah, Mr. Muhammad Tariqul Alam. Look, when you're writing a review paper, the research findings, the research observations of experimental research are optional. I hope I'm very clear about it. But when you're writing research paper, then the research observation, the experimental results are not optional, those are compulsive. Because on the basis of that only you have to prove that, hey, my research is brighter than others. My research is more appealing to the world than others. So this is the daylight difference between the two. I hope I answered this question, Mr. Muhammad Tariqul Alam. Is there anything else? Time frame, I already answered about it. And then, yeah, I answered about the review and the research paper. Yeah. Is there anything else which you want to ask? You can ask any damn thing about plagiarism, paraphrasing, or whatever the things which you're feeling troublesome while writing the paper, or maybe how to quote the result analysis, everything.
So right now, actually, I don't have received any question from the participants. Okay, Sinha sir wants to ask again one question, so I would like to unmute him again.
Oh, sure.
Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yeah,
you are audible. Yes, proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes. That question I asked, you answered it, but it's not on that dimension I asked it. I'm asking this question because of what happened last week. I went to have a presentation, and we are 8 number. After the presentation, a man came and presented work. He referenced work of 1960, 1982, and all the rest. So the work couldn't fly. The paper was rejected. I'm asking now, what is the limit we can state our literature? Like how many years gap? What is the time we can?
Yeah, I got it.
That will be accepted.
Yes, I got it.
All right, sir.
Yeah, I got it. Look, Mr. Chinna, if you are quoting, say, like for example, I'm giving you 15 references, and out of that 15 references, if you're quoting 10% of the references, like maybe like 1.5 or 2 references of 2015 beyond, like maybe like 1960s or 1980s, then it's okay. Not more than that. Please, you should be including 80 to 90% recent references. That is mandatory. Now, why? There's a question in your mind. Why should so? Why it's like that? Look, because there is a recent research going on various verticals of the research. And as a good researcher, you should be knowing that what actually the recent research is going on. And if it is known to you, then only you will be having, you know, in-depth analysis of the literature review. This is expected from the publication house. But if you're quoting the papers of 1940s and 1980s and 1960s, they don't recommend you. They interpret you that you don't know about the recent research. And that's why they reject you. So if you're quoting, say, like 10% of very old references, then it's okay. Otherwise, 90%, 80% times you should be having very, very recent papers to be referred, to be cited in your manuscript. Then only they will be accepted. I hope I answered your query. Next question I'm getting, he's asking, please, is there any difference between qualitative research and qualitative research? I think there's a problem in the question itself. OBO CAFOR is asking me the difference between qualitative research and qualitative research. What it means?
Thank you, sir. OBO CAFOR for greetings from Nigeria.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. In computer science, that's my field.
I'm from computer as well.
I noticed that we have our patterns of.
Okay.
We do have proposed system, many other ways of our format in research work. So most times we don't use questionnaire. When analyzing the system.
Can you please shorten your question and ask me, repeat your question?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm asking my question qualitative. Most times you have to run qualitative research on a system that will need questionnaires. How do you address such situation? We have quantitative and we have qualitative.
Okay. Let me
so
answer
this is where I don't get it clause.
Yeah, let me answer this. When you're talking about quantitative research, look, quantitative research is supported by numbers. Those are supported by stats. Those are supported by the sort of outputs which you're getting out of your results. But qualitative research is not such. So when you're talking about qualitative research, it is more of a feedback, more of a survey, more of an interview, more of a, putting the Google form and inviting the responses. So upon that, if you want to prove something, that is qualitative research. But when you're saying quantitative research, you have to come up with the numbers, you have to come up with the stats. So this is, I think, what is the difference between the qualitative research and quantitative research. When you want to quote in a manuscript, you should be using these tools which I suggested.
That was a very nice question raised by Abia Kafur from Nigeria. And I would like to also add here that in the qualitative research, you can go with the 3 people also. You can go for the theoretical concept like grounded theory, and even you can take the interview method, observation methods, then the case studies in your study. And while you are going with the quantitative. You may have like more than crores, like lakhs of people, but you have to select a particular group of people. And nowadays it is an advantage that you have the softwares with you. Like in the qualitative, you can go with the NVivo and all, but in the quantitative, like SPSS, which we are conducting nowadays, then you can go the Stata. All these softwares are available, so you can utilize the both part if you are going with that. And another advantage is about the mixed methods of research. So you can apply the mixed method by combining the both the qualitative and the quantitative. So I hope that now you have got your answer also in a clear way, and you can utilize it, you can apply it in your own research. Thank you for the nice question. And thank you, sir, for the clarifications you are giving. And I have received one more question regarding the hypothesis actually. So I would like to share with sir. And it is really very good interactive session is going on, because whenever our participations are also raising the question, then it is also giving more insightful in the session. So, and we are always receiving more question in Gadesa sir presentation. In the last time also I remember. So now again one more question I have shared with you, sir.
Yeah, I think Robert is asking about the. I have always had a challenge in stating hypothesis. Could you please shed more light on to the research hypothesis? Look, Robert, when you're having a sort of a binomial nature or binary nature of your research questions, that which way they are going, either this way or this way. So if you really want to, test it, you should be employing hypothesis. Say, for example, whether a vaccine is going to work on the COVID or whether a vaccine is going to work on the people and going to, say like protect them from the critical diseases which is going to be caused by COVID-19. So in these sort of questions which are erecting in your research, you can go for hypothesis. Here you have to talk about the null hypothesis and the alternate hypothesis. So you have to make some assumption which will be there in null hypothesis, but if that assumption doesn't hit, it will be alternative hypothesis, opposite of that. So if you have that binomial nature or the binary nature of the question, and you're having sample set which is to be bifurcated in these two wings, these two sides, for that one, I think hypothesis is perfect tool to employ. You should go for hypothesis, specifically when you want to bipartite the samples into the two zones or the two areas, then hypothesis is very, very handy tool to prove your research. I hope I answered your query, Robert.
Thank you, sir. And that was also another nice question raised by Robert about the hypothesis. And we would like to share that if you want to put your imagination, that if you want to put forward your imagination, then it will be one alternative hypothesis. And there is another hypothesis that is called a null hypothesis, which is already existing. And I think that yesterday we had one good session on that hypothesis, and again tomorrow we have that part. So you can go that part, and also you have the inferential hypothesis which you can apply in your own research. So in that also you can go in depth also with our other speakers. In our tomorrow we have that one. Okay, so Robert has shared that he has got his answer also as well. So right now we haven't received any more question, but we have found that it was very incredible, insightful presentation by our Dr. Vijay Gadesa sir, with the good the conversation also with our participants. So I would like to request each and everyone to give big hand for Dr. Vijay Gadesa sir for wonderful presentation. And with the sir we have seen that sir have justified with the topic also, and the slides which sir has given, it was very insightful one, and sir explained it in depth from the every slides we have found. And today we have seen that our both the speaker, our SK Baral sir and now Dr. Vijay Gadesa sir, both have explained about the how to develop an original research manuscript and the fundamentals of effective research manuscript drafting. So I would like to congratulate you, sir, for the wonderful presentation in this platform. Here I would like to unmute our Dean, Professor Dr. Rajesh Kannur sir, for one message from sir's side.
Good evening, madam, and good evening to Dr. Vijay Gadecha. An excellent session by him. Highlighted the basic concepts in very in-depth and also very good interaction with the participants, and he has cleared all the doubts. Okay, of course, very excellent, very nice session. Thank you. Good night from India.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to unmute Smriti Mehta for her message.
Once again, good evening, ma'am. My voice is audible.
Yes, Smriti, you're audible.
So thank you once again, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to unmute and share my views. So today, as starting with the Professor Dr. S.K. Biral sir, then we coming with the Dr. Vijay Gadecha sir, a wonderful session on the fundamentals of manuscript drafting. As usual, sir has always come with the beautiful slides, to the point discussion on the topic on today's agenda, and means it was, and also in a very fantastic manner sir has cleared everyone's doubt, whosoever our participants are having the query. So congratulations sir, and congratulations to all the participants of today, MAC participants and the IIPN. And thank you for joining us, and please stay connected with us, because in the upcoming days we are again bringing up with the more interesting topics in research and innovation, and we will be always giving a wonderful opportunity and grateful to our eminent speaker from whom we are learning. So don't miss any session, and we are always ready to help you, serve you. And so thank you so much, and thank you ma'am for giving me this opportunity to share my views, and good night to one and all.
Thank you, Smriti. Now I would like to unmute our General Manager, Dr. Sukhbinder Singh, for his message and the feedback message from his side.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for unmuting me. And I would like to congratulate Dr. Vijay Gadecha, sir, for an excellent presentation. Actually, he hit the nail because he said the imagination is the key. And of course, we have effective original research paper drafting. So both effective and original are actually very mandatory. And his presentation and the entire exoskeleton of his presentation is absolutely iconic. I would like to congratulate him. And of course, with this presentation, if any scholar visit this presentation, he will understand that how easy it is actually to publish good journals, depending upon the points he has mentioned, you have to keep in mind. So thank you so much, sir. I always enjoy your presentation, and it's an excellent one. And I'm sure all the scholars feel the same. And a very good evening to everyone. And thank you so much, ma'am, for inviting me. And a very good evening to all.